it'll come on red, and you'll actually see it all scanning on the up there.
Oh, okay. Right, come on.
Good evening, councillors. Please remain standing for chaplain.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here again. And as I come to the end of my time as the Mayor's chaplain, I just want to thank you for the honour of travelling with you all for the last year. You've taught me an awful lot about what it means to lead and serve. And I stand amazed at the sacrifices that each of you make, the time and commitment that you give to this borough. I was just talking to Mr. Mayor, and I think we've worked out he's been to about 300 engagements and meetings over the course of the year so far. And when I think back over the last year to the events I've been privileged to be part of, several thousand people on Remembrance Day, and a church full of people at the Mayor's Carol service, to name just 2 events. So I want to give thanks to each of you here tonight, each of you who give up so much time and so much energy. It may not always feel like it, but you are respected, you do good, and you do make a difference. At my first council meeting as chaplain, I posed the question, what does this mean behind the mayor here, to be steadfast in service? And I've seen that you are the embodiment of that. So on behalf of my own community of Tadley, Pamberheath and Silchester, I thank you, and I will continue to pray for you. So let's do that now as we begin the meeting this evening. Lord God, I give you thanks for this council, for each person here who sacrifices much for their community. Thank you for their commitment, their love for this borough and the people they represent. We come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom and your support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a council and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that affect this borough. And continue to remind us all that what we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of the service of this place. We ask this in your name. Amen. God bless you all this evening. Thank you.
And thank you, Steve, for being my chaplain. Please be seated. Are they back in yet? Apologies for absence. Councillor Simon, Morris Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could give apologies for Councillor Eachus, as well as I know we've got Councillor Carr on the updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Jackie. Councillor
I don't mind.
Councillor Goodison, Councillor Howard Sorrell, and Councillor Ashfield will be late this evening.
I hope Councillor Howard Soul will have a bit of pain relief in his back, because it's very painful. Right.
And I hope Councillor Goodison will get it in his knee as well. So there we go.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? No.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to apologise for. Thank you.
I won't respond. Declarations of interest? None. Minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of February? Agreed? I asked the Deputy Mayor to sign them because he took the meeting. I was unwell, I'm afraid. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Announcements. Well, unfortunately, what the chaplain said I was going to say, to wish everyone who's standing all the very best, and to thank those who are retiring or not standing. Thank you for what you've done for the borough, and to wish everybody good luck in the future. Thank you very much. Questions from members of the public? No?
Hello, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Sorry. Right. Would you like to put your microphone on if you can?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've seen on some election leaflets a claim that the Borough Council has the authority to set a lower housing number for the next local plan. Can you clarify once and for all if that's the case?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. It's very well timed, given that the pre-election period begins tomorrow, and we're all likely to hear a lot more about housing numbers over the coming weeks. It also neatly segues into our next agenda item, which is a petition that's being brought forward by our MP, Dame Maria Miller. I'd like to begin by saying that as the portfolio holder for strategic planning and infrastructure, I have concerns about the number of new homes that we're being asked by government to build in our borough. I've gone on the record many times in this chamber, at EPH and at meetings with dozens of town and parish councils over the last few months saying exactly the same thing. If, as an administration, we were able to reduce the housing number and still get the local plan approved by an inspector, then we would do so. The leaflets that you refer to in your question, David, I'm assuming are from the local Conservatives. They claim that we're able to reduce the number of new homes that we're required to build under our new local plan, but they've yet to show us any evidence or indeed any explanation for how this would work in practice. The house building targets that the Cabinet has set in the local plan draw on advice from experts and are evidence-based. Our experts are all telling us the same thing, Mr Mayor, that we need to use the government's standard method formula to calculate housing projections. They also advise that we don't have any exceptional circumstances or any constraints that allow us to lower this figure. We've done everything we can. We've explored all of the avenues. We even wrote to Michael Gove, who's the Minister in charge, but he ignored us. So I'm getting two sets of conflicting advice. And as the portfolio holder, I need to make a decision. Which one do I need to choose? Do I listen to a group of politicians who are concerned about their party's prospects at the forthcoming elections? Or do I listen to independent planning experts with decades of relevant industry experience? Which one would you choose? Given how much is at stake, my decision won't surprise you. So we've crunched the numbers and we've developed our stepped trajectory approach in line with expert guidance. That means we're proposing just under 700 new homes each year for the first 5 years of the new plan period. We've been very transparent about how we've calculated that number, and we've shown all of our working out in the local plan documents. The local Conservative approach, by contrast, isn't as robust. They selectively reference part of the new National Planning Policy Framework that support their claims, but they completely ignore other elements that don't back up their arguments. Rather than proposing an alternative housing number that's based on hard evidence, which is what an inspector is going to look for when they assess our plan, they talk vaguely about a significant reduction because we have built a lot of homes in the past 50 years. Unfortunately, over-delivery over the past few decades isn't a valid reason for reducing the housing number. An inspector won't allow it, and the Conservatives know that. The approach proposed by the Conservatives doesn't stand up to any scrutiny. It hasn't persuaded local residents, and it's got no chance of getting approved by a planning inspector. Without that approval, we don't have a viable local plan. And let's be clear, there's a significant cost to having our plan thrown out by an inspector. There's a cost in terms of wasted time. There's a cost in terms of wasted money. And perhaps more importantly, there's a cost in terms of the developer free-for-all that will spread across our borough once again. The local Conservatives know what the national planning policy requires us to do. After all, it's their government, their ministers, that set the rules. So I'd encourage Dame Maria, if she's here, to share her petition with the ministers, with Michael Gove and his team, as they're the ones who can change the rules and they're the ones that can help us. So back to the question that was posed. The real question we should be asking, Mr Mayor and David, is this. Why are the Conservatives ignoring their own government's advice and continuing to tell residents that we can lower the housing number? And will they lobby Michael Gove to try and change the rules? Perhaps that's a question that Dame Maria or whoever is presenting the petition on her behalf can answer when they speak in a few minutes' time. Thank you.
Just in case I need it. Right. Was there a supplementary question?
Yes, please. Thank you. One of the parts of the local plan that has been particularly well received is the proposal for a tougher energy efficiency requirements for all new homes. The government is watering down its net zero ambitions and has announced that it doesn't want local plans to be too ambitious on energy standards. What are you doing to fight this misguided intervention from government?
Thank you for the question. So Lee Rowley, who is the Minister for Housing, is consulting on a new future homes and building standard. And he says that councils shouldn't adopt stronger energy efficiency standards in their local plan than the targets being set nationally. Unfortunately, those national targets aren't particularly ambitious. So we agree, we think this is a terrible backward step, and it's likely to harm our ability to deliver the commitments that we made as part of our climate emergency back in 2019. If the proposals come into effect as they currently stand, it will make it much more difficult for us to meet our target of being net zero as a borough by 2030. We've written to the Minister to tell him this and to encourage him to change his mind. As hopefully a representative of our MP is here this evening, I'd also ask them to follow our lead and write to the Minister to express concerns on our behalf. I'd be grateful if Dame Maria or her representative could let us know, if someone is here this evening, if they plan to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Petitions? No? No. Resignations and appointments? Anybody? No. Right. Business deferred from the meeting held on the 22nd of February. Questions from councillors. Councillor Vox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So concerns have been raised after a fire inspection of the Unity Place residential building, which was previously the Shire offices in Chinham Business Park. The offices were converted into 270 dwellings in 2022 under permitted development rights. Not long after residents started moving in, there was an evacuation due to a gas leak. So this fire safety concern is very worrying for everyone living there. I've been informed that the council is supporting the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Services work to ensure the responsible person does whatever is needed to keep people safe who are living there, and that the owner of Unity Place has put in place a waking watch while they address these concerns. While this is helpful to know, it leaves a lot of questions unanswered for our residents. Please would the Cabinet member provide the following information so we and the 270 households living at Unity Place are assured that they are indeed safe and that all necessary action is being taken in a timely way. What is the safety risk identified and when was the previous fire safety inspection carried out? What action is required to address the fire safety concerns and when will this be carried out? And how is this information, vital for the safety and well-being of everyone living at Unity Place, being communicated to residents, many of whom do not have English as their primary language? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James, isn't it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, Councillor, things have moved on since you submitted this question, and we have met with you and your fellow ward councillors, and we have another meeting planned. All councillors can be reassured that the council is working closely with the fire service and the responsible person at Unity Place. There are interim arrangements ongoing while the fire safety issues are being addressed. As you know, we are limited on what further information we can share at this stage, as the matter may be subject to legal proceedings.
Any supplementary?
Yes, please.
Yes, of course,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This worrying development has raised some very serious learning points for all the organisations involved. Will the portfolio holder commit to bringing a paper to the Communities, Environment and Partnership Committee as soon as practical, or at least within the next 12 months, setting out what has worked well and what we will do differently in the future? Thank you.
Can you respond?
I will provide you with a written response in relation to that, and I'm not going to commit to that tonight in relation to that, but I will give you a written response. And I look forward to discussing this with you at our future meeting that we have in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As written on the paper,
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for meeting with me and the lead officer this week. This is complex, and I would be happy to recommend, as you agreed also, that this question is referred to CEP for committee members to be briefed by officers involved and scrutinise this question. Thank you.
Jones, top right, please.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward. So everybody in every ward has the problem with fly tipping in the towns and in the rural areas, and I think we ought to know exactly what's going on and why things aren't improving, or it might be that that is the way it is. It's you know, we've all got ideas what should and shouldn't be done, but until we actually know the depth of everything, from how they're going to be picked up, what sort of rubbish is being dumped, until we know that, we can't make any judgment. And some of us might come up with a good idea. Who knows? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I look forward to working with yourself, with the Chair and the committee on this paper.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor McIntyre.
I'm here, I'm online. Thank you. Please would the portfolio holder provide council members an update on their redevelopment plans for the Camrose football ground, considering that no community groups have come forward with proposals for the stadium, despite its designation of an asset of community value and the previous permission granted for residential development on the site. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. I can't give you much of an update, to be honest. The Basingstoke Developments own the majority of the Camrose site, about 71% of it. Obviously, those applications for redevelopment of the site were approved by appeal by the planning inspector. The council owns 29% of the site, and we have no plans to do anything with it. So it's very much in the hands of Basingstoke to decide what they're going to develop and when.
Councillor McIntyre, supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Gavin. Doesn't really answer the question, though, does it? I've taken the time out to meet some of the supporters, to listen to them and hear about their concerns, hence the question. Many of those concerns predate my time as a councillor. I've started off that conversation with them by telling them I can't promise them anything, because unfortunately that is part of the problem. False promises and a lack of candour. So I'm happy the question is coming to you, because hopefully we'll get an answer and not a rant about taking no lessons from this side of the room. Because all I'm doing is asking for clarity for our residents. Clarity that isn't being provided. As part of my dialogue with our residents, they've raised possible options with me. Options I promised that I would bring to council. In Dorking, as an example, there's an example there of the council acting with the local FA and private companies
to wind up, please.
Yeah, to enable purchase of their ground. Unfortunately, though, I've heard some very concerning things that your independent and Lib Dem administration, rather than exploring options, are actively engaging to sell the council-owned land.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can you confirm?
Election broadcast, is it? No, it'd be longer than that. Councillor Joe.
Yes, thank you. I can confirm he's misinformed. I also met with members of the Camrose Supporters Club this week, indeed with Councillor Morrow and Councillor Harvey in Committee Room 3, and had a conversation. They were keen to show me pictures of Dorking. There's a reality. There is 71% of the land is in private ownership with planning consent. I have no control over that. Nothing I can do about that. Our part of the land has not been put up for sale. It has not been marketed for sale. We're in no negotiations about it. It's sitting there waiting to see what happens to the rest of it. Clearly on its own, it will not facilitate a football club. So I'm very much in the hands of what happens to the Basingstoke bit. So I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep. because I can't promise what Spasron are going to do with their part of the land. All I can confirm is that we are continuing to support the football club. We're meeting with them regularly. Councillor Morrow has a good relationship with them. He's understanding their ambitions. We're also talking to the FA and understanding their ambitions. We'll work constructively with them to secure a long-term future, not just for the league football, the non-league football of Basingstoke in the borough, but also opportunities for children to take up the sport in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Vox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. For the leader of the council, as the council leader, do you still support the vision for the land north of the M3 at Junction 7 as the preferred site for the new hospital, aligning with the previous administration's endorsement and the broader community's expectations for enhanced health facilities in Basingstoke? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vox, for the question. I am very much aware of the former Conservative administration's vision for Junction 7 and land north of the M3, as you called it. A vision that you adopted as your blueprint for the new hospital, life sciences campus, business campus, thousands of houses and warehouses in 2021 on top of Oakley and North Waltham. That was your local plan for those communities you approved at your cabinet. You certainly aren't telling the people of Basingstoke and the villages that in your election leaflets, which I might add are highly misleading. You seem to have conveniently forgotten your own decisions. If everybody hasn't seen that particular document from the Conservatives, their blueprint for the south of Basingstoke, then I'd be happy to share a copy. It was your last local plan with a target of 850 homes a year that was responsible for Hanson Fields, Longacre and the golf course. You approved the vision for Junction 7, you put Popper Mayfield into your spatial strategy, and you aren't telling the people that in your election leaflets either. Now, I support the building of a new hospital for North Hampshire, but we need to be clear. There is no planning application submitted, and a site has not been purchased, and the funding is yet to be confirmed for cohort 4 of the hospital building programme. The NHS has run their consultation, which everyone will need to see the results of. Whatever those results, the communities of North Waltham and Oakley need to have their strategic gaps guaranteed, and we need a full planning process to be respected to ensure everybody can have their say. As the local planning authority, the council will consider any proposals that are submitted through due process. And separately, we have made it absolutely clear in our council plan that a new hospital is a key priority for this borough.
Supplementary.
So, Councillor Harvey, are you supporting a hospital at Junction 7 of the M3? Thank you.
Yes, we want a new hospital. The question is, what did the results of that survey come back as? What if the public say something different? We've got to wait for the NHS to come to us with the results of their consultation rather than prejudging it. And those communities around North Waltham, Oakley and Dummer deserve the respect of this council to listen to what those results of the consultation is, to protect their interests and then protect the interests of the rest of the borough when we say we want healthcare facilities and we want a new hospital. Could I also add, I'd quite like a lot more GPs, I'd quite like a lot more NHS dentists, and I'd quite like a lot more primary care facilities and services across the borough that we don't have either. We've got a real healthcare crisis in Basingstoke and Deane. A new hospital is part of the answer, and so is a lot more investment in those other services that we also need to see. So we actually need to carry on doing the work we're doing with the ICB, which is exploring what they can do with their very difficult financial position under the government's current budgetary framework to deliver for the people of Basingstoke and Deane. Because at the moment, a lot of people are saying, I can't get a GP, I can't get access to a doctor, and I can't get an NHS dentist, and that's just as much a priority.
Councillor Dillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Could the council leader provide an update on the negotiations between Planet Ice and Standard Securities regarding the Basingstoke ice rink repairs, with discussions reportedly at a standstill, yet rumours of the ice rink being imminently closed for maintenance? The community is still eager to understand the current status and any progress made to resolve the impasse.
Thank you, Sean. I respect your question, I respect your passion on this as well. We've had the conversation about this between the two of us. But the ice rink is owned by Standard Securities Limited and it's operated by Planet Ice Basingstoke Limited as a commercial operation, not as a public service. The council has focused on securing the future of the current facility that needs repair, by getting Standard Securities as the leaseholder and Planet Ice as the operator to come to a formal agreement about how programme of repair works that they're responsible for under the leases of the building. Now, those discussions are ongoing, and the parties are, I am pretty fully sure, aware of the debate that's going on around them. You are right that people want to know what's happening because we all care about it. You could see that actually from the number of debates, the people that have turned up at Cabinet, your questions that you've asked on a regular basis. The only problem I have, Sean, and I will say this, and you will forgive me for saying this, I know you've written letters, I know you've spoken at Cabinet, I know you've reflected all of your concerns, and I know you are concerned. What I'm disappointed is that you didn't do that when your own party was running the council. You didn't write letters to the paper then, or come to Cabinet to speak, or ask them a full question at every single council meeting. If we're going to be consistent on this, we need to be consistent on this. And we need to understand the residents' concerns and the ICE users' concerns. So this is not easy to resolve, you know that, and the issue has run for years and years. But what I know, and I think we could all share our focus, is on we want a solution for ICE in Basingstoke. I think we could all share that particular ambition and aspiration, but it has to be delivered as a reality.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mayor. Ice skaters and all rink users continue to hold their breath, waiting for positive news. So could Councillor Harvey clarify what progress, if any, has been made specifically since Councillor Lee's motion was discussed on the 5th of March, which was over 2 weeks ago? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
He's good, but he's
Do you
not
know
that
what?
good.
Do you know what? I would love to be able to do that. Would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Look, let's get back to reality here. There are commercially sensitive conversations taking place between parties that hold the lease to these buildings. They need to complete those commercially sensitive conversations. I am not going to get in the way of those commercially sensitive conversations this evening by making a public statement in any way, shape or form beyond that which I've already said, and you wouldn't expect me to. So let's just park the point. We all want the ice rink. Those conversations and work is ongoing. And I'd just like to thank the officer team who are doing that work, and we know they're doing that work, and they're doing a damn good job. They really are. But also they're working with the other two parties who at the end of the day need to come to the agreement with a very clear work programme for the repairs to the ice rink. And that's the magic ticket, isn't it? The idea of having repairs to the ice rink or a plan B.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor. As per the order papers. Thank you, Councillor Mullany, both for the question and for saying as per the order paper. So fixed penalty notices are one part of a broad approach to address the impact of antisocial behaviour and environmental crime. Since April 2023, across the categories you refer to in your question, there have been 48 fixed penalty notices, 8 prosecutions, 3 arrest warrants, 1 caution and 42 written warnings. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. No supplementary.
Thank you very much. Councillor Compton-Burnett.
Thank you. In the UK, on average, only 70% of children can swim competently when they leave primary school. In Basingstoke, that figure is less than 50%. And in some Basingstoke schools, fewer than 30% of children can swim when they leave primary school. It is mandatory for all schools to offer free swimming lessons, but currently the schools in Basingstoke are faced with limited availability of swimming lesson slots, no flexibility in session timings, and pools that charge significantly different prices, some almost twice that of other pools. This year, one operator imposed steep price increases and changed the length of its sessions without any consultation with the schools that use the pool. We urgently need to do everything we can to help our schools to improve the swimming teaching they provide. I have 2 questions for the portfolio holder for sport, leisure and culture. Please would the Council bring together representatives from the primary schools in Basingstoke to determine how best to improve swimming teaching? The answer is not simply just to work on prices, but to consider initiatives in other parts of the UK. So please include ideas from the Speedo Swim United initiative in these discussions. Secondly, please would the Council work with the swimming pool operators in Basingstoke to address the needs of the schools?
Right, Councillor.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Compton-Burnett. Your concerns over primary school swimming attainment are shared by Swim England, whose research shows that 1 in 4 youngsters currently leave primary school unable to swim 25 metres or self-rescue. The real concern is that is set to rise to 40% by 2025. However, in Basingstoke and Deane, the well-respected measure that we use at the Borough, the Sport England Active Lives Survey, says that 75.7% of our junior school pupils fall under the category of can swim, which is above the national average. Although we do want to support our junior school pupils, I must be clear it's not the Borough's Council's responsibility to ensure that primary schools meet their national curriculum swimming targets. We will look to support them reaching targets through the use of facilities and providers across the Borough. We do have comprehensive swimming lesson programmes with over 4,800 school children being taught each week in our main pools. Officers are having conversations with the Trust and Serco Leisure, and we understand that swimming prices will not be increased in September 2024 to July 2025. Officers and I have met with Councillor Compton-Burnett to look at the situation for the aquadrome and are working together through some actions with Serco for schools that are struggling to meet their swimming targets. Thanks.
Supplementary.
Thank you. Thank you, that's heartening that you'll be working with them. Please may I have your assurance that you'll be talking to every primary school before the end of the summer term, because it's urgent and it's concerning all of the primaries. It's a big concern for each of the primary schools. And I think even if you don't have an active plan as to what you're going to do with them, at least start to engage them, because this is really important to our children.
We are open to talk to any primary schools. I don't think it's a good use of officers' time to be going to each primary school in the borough. But anyone that wants to talk to us, that's absolutely fine. And like I said, we're working with primary schools that are using our facilities. But we have to remember that swimming attainment is the responsibility of Hampshire and also the education Hampshire schools. Yeah, schools. I got it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rattigan.
As per the order paper.
Thank you for the question, Ken, and thank you for sticking to the as per the order paper. So I'm grateful to you, of course, for flagging the progress that my Cabinet colleagues have made in breaking the deadlock at Manydown, which brings much needed new homes on the site a big step closer. As you'll probably be aware, the Section 106 agreement attached to the outline planning application for Manydown requires that 5 gypsy and traveller pitches are provided within 5 years of the grant of that permission, subject, of course, to the relevant reserved matters or full application, for those pitches being approved. This important condition means that the provision of the pitches can't be left to the end of the process. At this stage, we don't know exactly where on Manydown the gypsy and traveller pitches are likely to be. However, we'd expect that this important question will be a part of the pre-application discussions once the plans are a bit more fully developed. Thank you.
Entry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the number of gypsy and traveller pitches within this borough is likely to rise substantially, can you assure me that new gypsy and traveller pitches will be allocated in conjunction both with the gypsy and traveller community, the settled residents, and any new residents in these new communities, as I don't think it's fair to force gypsy and traveller pitches to the last of it, as we've seen recently at a DC meeting. Even when they're in a local plan, they don't seem to be able to be supported. So I want to your assurance that we will get the right provision for these people.
Thank you for the supplementary. As you know, the council must plan to meet housing needs for all types of accommodation, and that includes gypsies, travellers and travelling show people. We're currently undertaking an assessment, a borough-wide assessment of the need for pitches up to 2040. We've commissioned that, and that's going to form part of the evidence base for the draft local plan when it goes to Regulation 19 consultation, hopefully towards the end of this year or at the start of 2025. So if you can bear with us, because we are talking to the gypsy and traveller community locally as part of that evidence base, bear with us until then, and please let us know your comments when that's ready for public submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, item number 9. Can we take them up? Can we take them all on block, unless anybody wishes to? Do you agree? Agreed. Thank you. Item 10, the pay policy statement. I'm moving it.
I second it.
Hang on, you don't need to leave. We're all. Do you all agree? Thank you. It was at a pre-meeting when they said they don't normally get outside before they have to come back again. Right, members' allowance. I'll move from the chair.
I second it.
Do you all agree? Right, thank you. Amendments to the constitutional overview and scrutiny, I move.
I second.
Do you all agree? No? Right, sorry, we'll go over there. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not disagreeing with the proposals. I just want to have some clarification on some of the terms of reference on what each committee is responsible for. So on Appendix 3B, I think that's the clean version, the Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee, so this is page 123, I think it's of the agenda, for those ruffling through quickly. It has the Armed Forces down as for the Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and then also for the Resident Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee, it also has the Armed Forces. I'm just wondering, is that correct, that to go to both, or is that a typo, or does it is a typo? Yeah, okay. That's happy. Can we just confirm which one it will go to then? Thanks.
Yeah, I think the intention was for it to go to resources.
Councillor Miller and Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and the same boat as Councillor Lee, and thank you for that. The proposed changes to the committee structure now moves the scrutiny function to cover all 3 revised committees. As chair of scrutiny, I would like to emphasise the importance of formal training of the scrutiny function so that all councillors are aware of the scope and the purpose of scrutiny and the role it plays within the governance of the council. One of our primary roles in overview and scrutiny is to provide constructive challenge to achieve better outcomes for residents. Scrutiny achieves this by questioning cabinet and committee members, officers and other council partners to gain further knowledge around an issue to make effective evidence-based recommendations. In the past, the council has, most properly, undertaken formal council scrutiny training for the committee. However, in the new municipal year, we will have new councillors and committee structure, and I feel most strongly that as we will have a part to play in overview and scrutiny, all of us, that formal training should extend to us all. Over the years, it's been evident that on occasions, the scrutiny function in this council has not been treated as intended by formal guidance. So, in the interest of best practice in good governance, I ask that formal scrutiny training is established with examples of how it works in practice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Golding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The major casualty of this review, of course, is the Many Down Overview Committee. I accept, of course, that officers and members have worked hard to streamline our committee structure here, and it's going to make them more effective, and it all must be very good, and I will vote for it. I won't rebel in any way. However, with the absorption of MOC into the Environment and Infrastructure Committee, the members who are closest to the Many Down sites will lose an incredibly valuable means of regular and direct communication with the project director and the master planners, urban and civic. Scrutiny to me is a harsh concept. It speaks of criticism and suspicion, probably rightly so, and I do accept that everything that we do at council has to be scrupulously scrutinised. That is fine. But I think it is amazing how much can be achieved with an accompanying more friendly and cooperative approach. I and the Winklebury and Many Down ward councillors have been able, through regular meetings with our own Many Down team and with Urban and Civic, to field questions and concerns from local residents and keep them updated on progress. The MOC has provided a means of closing the gap between the master planners and those good people on the ground who will be incredibly affected by this development, and I'm talking both north and south, of course. Could I ask, therefore, that alongside the scrutiny function, which will be in amongst all the other responsibilities, the Environment and Infrastructure Committee, that perhaps 2 or 3 times a year a liaison meeting can be scheduled in between the Many Down overlords and the ward councillors and any other members. This way, relationship between them will be maintained, and questions, updates and concerns can be exchanged and answered in an environment of discussion and cooperation rather than the more combative sense that comes with the word scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Golding, then it's Councillor Basham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start by thanking group leaders and the monitoring officer for making some amendments to the papers that we have already. I have an annoying brain when it comes to things like the Constitution. I like to look at things in detail, and I like to try and work out what things might look like in the future. I think there's lots of good changes in this paper. I think I welcome lots of them, and therefore I will be able to support the paper. But I do have some concerns. And my concerns generally are around call-in, to be honest, because I think call-in's a really important part of our function. We don't use it often, but when we do need to use it, then it should be done right. And I think, group sizes will ebb and flow, and we need a constitution that kind of provides a safety net that voices can be heard, whatever side of administration you end up on at whatever time. We're now moving to a system where 2 out of the 3 scrutiny committees can be chaired by administration chairs, and they will decide whether a call-in can be called in. And that sits really uncomfortably with me. Like our previous past has always been, we've had 1 chair of scrutiny, and that has been an opposition chair, and they have then decided on a call-in. But now we've got 3 committees that can do call-ins, and 2 of them can be chaired by administration, and therefore marking their own homework. The leader's looking really puzzled at me, so if I've misunderstood, I would be delighted. That is my concern. But I'll shut up now and hopefully be proved wrong.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Basham, then Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification, really. Page 87, Section 2, size of committees. It lists the Audit Committee as having a membership of 9. We have a co-opted additional member who is under the SIP for guidance. The CIPFA guidance sets out that we're allowed 2 cooperative members. So far, we're only successful in recruiting 1. So just terminology there, I appreciate that it's 9 political members, but it's actually 11 members. So I don't know if you want to change that, Fiona. Or, okay, thank you. That's great.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just picking up Councillor Golding's point, calling has to be chaired, absolutely has to be chaired by the opposition, and beyond that, the decision-making process needs to be clear on that. So let's just get, I hear what you said, I know what you're saying, let's just get some clarity on that from the officers so that we're clear. And just in responding to Diane's point, to Councillor Taylor's point, I think you're right, and I think let's have a conversation about what's the best mechanism to achieve what you're looking for, which is to have the appropriate round table and information exchange to achieve a good decision making when it comes to that. Whether that might be a task and finish, let's think about it between us in terms of what's actually going to work. We'll talk with the portfolio holder and we can come up with a solution, I think, that hopefully members can have confidence in. But we agree with you, I totally agree with you in terms of taking it forward. Let's maintain a good, constructive dialogue over what will be one of the biggest projects this council will ever undertake in partnership with others.
Thank you. Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add my support to this paper and the proposed changes to the Constitution. So when I joined the council, just coming up 2 years now, one of the first things that I put my hand up to volunteer on was a review by the LGA, where they talked to us about the processes of the council and what was going on. And my understanding is that the recommendations that have come out and come to us now have actually come from that, where we have a panel of old and bold councillors who have been there and have seen it and actually come back to make recommendations to us of what they think works. So this isn't, to me, this isn't a political agenda on anyone's side. It may be worth clarifying, just coming back to Councillor Golding, I believe there is always the option anyway for a call-in to be brought into council if a committee chair decided not to. And I think the Constitution is you need 1/3 of members to support that option for a call-in. So there is a route there if we honestly thought that a committee chair was trying to block that, but I'd like to think we're all professional, and certainly the chairs of the committee that I've always sat on either side have always been fairly non-political. Thank you.
Right, we need to clarify the... Sorry, go on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if it had helped to just clarify the issue raised by Councillor Golding. So the main committee's resources is to be chaired by a non-administration group. The other 2 committees, it's up to the council to decide. But in the update paper that I presented yesterday on Councillor Mina-Span's update to me, feedback to me, was that all call-ins will be chaired by non-administration.
Can you stand, please, if you're going to speak?
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. It's just that it can't get to call in until an administration or a potentially administration chair accepts that it's a call in. Is that?
Sorry, sorry, no, that's not the case. So 5 councillors can request a call and it comes to me to decide whether it complies with the criteria in the Constitution, and then it will get referred to the call-in committee. It doesn't go through, that part of it does not go through any members.
I'm fully reassured. Thank you very much.
Do you agree? Thank you very much. Now, item 12.1. I'm moving it from the chair.
I second it.
Do you all agree? Thank you. Item 13. Wondering whether I could, oh no, I've got to ask proposer to say something and then seconder, and then I might say something myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. What we call today the Rooksdown Children's Cemetery, of course, first started being used as a burial ground when Park Pruitt Hospital was used first in the First World War by Canadian soldiers, and then continued to be used after World War I by the hospital. The Canadian soldiers some time ago were either repatriated back to their homelands in Canada or reinterred in Worting Road Cemetery. It wasn't until much later in 1981 that it became the Children's Cemetery. And I want to say a big thank you to all the parents, friends and volunteers, including the Rotary, who have achieved so much in the 2 tidy sessions that we've set up in the past few weeks. I checked on them today. The snowdrops that we planted are settling in well. The Snowdrop Remembrance Garden is there to remember all those very young babies that are remembered in the cemetery, and joined this time of year by the most remarkable pink cherry blossom. With the work, there were many graves that were rediscovered that were underneath overgrown hedges, and now today we would never know that they were ever lost to their parents by the overgrown hedges. The thanks for this work doesn't come from me. It comes from all of those parents who've contacted me that no longer live in the area, or for whatever reason couldn't find it in themselves to attend the events, who've contacted me over the past few weeks, and they're just so very grateful for everybody who showed that they cared. Although it's called Rooksdown Children's Cemetery, I'm also acutely aware that the relatives will be from all over and outside the borough. And I thank Taylor and Lauren's dad, Jack, for setting up and running the Rooksdown Children's Cemetery Facebook page. And I ask you to please help us publicise that page, because one of our intentions is to set up a friends group. And Jack is the perfect person to do it. And you also have my personal recommendation. He's the perfect person to cut through a very thorny hedge and make sure things don't catch you in the eye. The biggest thank you I have, and I think all of our parents have, is to a woman who's very quiet in demeanour called Jerry. Jerry's the mother of Christine, who was the very first child to be buried in the cemetery, exactly 43 years ago this month. After Christine spent some time at Saxonwood Special School just across the road, it was Jerry who first asked for Christine to be laid to rest there so that she could see the school that she loved so very much, even when she was so very ill, that she would see the school forever. In doing so, Jerry created the Children's Cemetery. In that small act, she wasn't to know that she was also creating the site of Christine's best friend, Heather, to be buried next to her when she sadly passed only 16 days later. Something that I know gives both families great solace. So, Mr. Mayor, I hope we can all tonight pledge our support for keeping these childhood friends, Christine and Heather, and many others like them, who were lost, still dearly loved, and greatly missed, a secure future that we are best to deliver. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Simon. It's important that this children's cemetery is properly cared for and looked after. Our hearts go out to the families who have lost a baby or a child and then face further distress about the condition of the cemetery when they visit. That's why it's disappointing to all of us, I think, to hear the concerns that have been raised. Of course, we want all, I think, to help to ensure that the memories of children are honoured and that this is a place where families can find comfort. This shouldn't be affected by the cemetery not being properly maintained. I think we owe it to those who have loved ones there to investigate fully the options, and this will involve a detailed conversation with the North Hampshire Hospitals Trust, who are the responsible authority. The details of that need to be investigated as we ensure what we can achieve for both the families and their friends who visit there, so that we do not give them any rather false hope, but that we take forward a proposal that will work. Officers have already met with the representatives of the Trust and provided advice on a suitable contractor who could undertake the maintenance of the cemetery at this time. However, with regard to the transfer of the ownership, this is going to require some detailed investigation. I'm personally supportive in principle and will ask the officers to speak with the Trust and gather and examine all of the relevant information which we can consider as a cabinet together. We need to do due diligence, as you would expect, when taxpayers' money is involved and concerned, and that's both NHS money as well as this council's money. So I think we can all agree that this motion is not only worthy, it's something we should support, do the work, and then bring forward something that will achieve the aim that you've set out. We have to go about it in the right way, and our officers will support us in that, and Cabinet will need to take into consideration what the conversations with the NHS bring out. But I understand completely what you're saying and commend the work that you're doing and what has been done. And it's very, very important, isn't it? And we need to do something, so we shall.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'm going to say something. You have my full support on this. And it's, yes, I could get quite emotional over it, but you have my full support. Councillor McIntyre. Then it's Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor Minas-Bound and Councillor Harvey for proposing and seconding this motion. I will remain brief in case others do want to speak. Last summer, my colleagues and I met with an old chap by the name of Bill. We were sitting with him outside Willows, enjoying the Basingstoke parade. He's an old soldier, so he had some very good stories, and the conversation was flowing. Eventually, the conversation got round to the council, and when Bill found out we were councillors, he did get quite upset as he expressed his grief as he has children lying at rest at the cemetery. He showed us photos of the site, and unfortunately it was quite overgrown for the time he was there. We made a promise to Bill to organise a spring clean and see what we could do about resolving the issue. We spoke to the Trust and they made us aware of the resource constraints they had. At the end of the day, their primary role is providing healthcare services. Here at the council, we have a grounds team, a very professional team who do a fantastic job around our borough. I believe if we have the resource to pick up this role, then we should. Anything we can do to make this place a place of sanctuary should be within our remit. I support this motion. I would ask my fellow councillors to lend their support as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support this and welcome that it's come to full council. I'm quite fortunate. My son was born 10 weeks premature, and thanks to the good old NHS, you know, he was one that survived, but he could very well have ended up in a children's cemetery just like that. And I run past it frequently, and I saw you out the other weekend doing such good work. So yeah, I commend you for that. The one thing I would ask, just on the motion itself, the 3 points, the first, second and the last one talk about essentially the council doing the work and, you know, accepting it into our fold, which I agree we should do. We have got great teams and we have also taken on additional staff members for the Green team. The third one around the community, opening dialogue and community engagement, I guess I don't understand if we're going to look and to do it anyway, what the aim of that dialogue would be, because I would hope that all stakeholders would be in agreement in the same way that we are anyway, to do it. And the motion kind of says, let's do it anyway, regardless of that kind of third paragraph. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not going to support it for being in there, but maybe if there was a chance to change that, just to save time and energy, if anything, so that we can actually focus on bringing it into council ownership so that we can continue the good work that you guys have been doing. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other speakers? No. Councillor Minas-Bound, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm trying to think how to word this, and perhaps unusually I won't be tactful. Looking at the third paragraph, one of the reasons why I mentioned Jerry is my first contact with Jerry was actually somebody who was quite strong at questioning what we were doing and why we were doing it. And it took me a while to work out what Jerry's connection was, which is one of the reasons why I put the paragraph in. Because actually, those parents don't have any objection to what this motion tries to achieve. They want a lot of engagement as far as how it achieves it. They came to check what we were doing and why we were doing it, and that we did all the right things as far as being very sensitive to where their children were buried and where other children were buried, and feel very possessive about the graveyard, which I absolutely accept. And I think we should go into it with our eyes wide open, that says any change has to be done in a very sensitive way with quite a lot of communication. So I don't intend to change it, but I just want to be really clear that's why.
that actually, whilst we've been doing just, in some respect, two tidies with cutting back some hedges and planting some bulbs, it is something that requires quite a lot of open communication, and maybe sometimes local authorities don't do enough of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do I take it that you all agree? Any dissent? Thank you. Item 14, Councillor Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor. Following two Saints' decision not to appeal against the Council's decision on supported housing scheme at 180 Culver Road, subsequently an agreement was reached between the Borough, County and offices and South Sovereign to regenerate the site with a new affordable housing scheme. In July 2023, Sovereign presented their proposals, prompting concerns from residents regarding the demolition of much-needed garages in that area. However, there was a general consensus in favor of replacing the existing unused building with the houses. Since then, there has been no further update. Therefore, could the portfolio holder provide clarity on the current status of this proposal and any steps being taken to move the project forward?
Thank you, Councillor. Following the refusal of the planning permission for the proposed supported housing scheme at 180 Culver Road, I can confirm that Hampshire County Council and our officers have been working with Sovereign as a major landowner in the community, supporting them to develop proposals for an affordable housing scheme. Sovereign held a community consultation event. They are currently undertaking preparatory work so that they can submit a planning application. Our officers will continue to work with Sovereign to provide support and to bring this site forward for affordable housing as a priority.
Thank you, Councillor James. Any timelines, James? Councillor James.
No, I'm sorry, I can't give you a timeline, but I'm sure, what we intend to do, as we always do, is to keep ward members and the community updated.
Pardon me. Councillor Aaron.
As per the order papers, thank you.
That's a good one. We'll go with the order paper, particularly on this one. Oh, Garrett, Aaron, are you listening? Here we go. Thank you for your question, Aaron. The question, I know you've already been raising this with officers. The Customer Relation Management System replacement project is underway, and as you know, it's a complex project, and the Council has a huge amount of services and processes to be modelled and developed into the system. The current CRM in use is outdated and has limitations in its process automation capabilities, including the ability to provide 360 feedback directly to our residents or users. The 360 you refer to is the ability to a customer to check on progress on sorting and issue via an online portal with alerts when there are any changes, such as the removal of fly tipping, for example. There is a huge amount of work going on to develop the new CRM system with new capabilities. The customer experience strategy focuses on the resident's journey, and improving response times are a part of this. So we'll be doing more work in the area, and the new workflow system in the Parks and Street Care team is a good step towards this, as it provides a real-time update from the team's handheld devices to help the customer services team provide the latest information to residents. It also highlights jobs that aren't completed in a timely manner that will help improve the service to residents. In terms of what we're doing in the meanwhile, if a resident doesn't receive a reply from a service area, they can phone the contact centre to be put through to the service area so they can speak to them directly. If the contact centre can't get hold of them, they'll log it, and Chase will have an original inquiry, and it generates an email to ensure the response from the resident as soon as possible from the officer responsible. If the team notice a particular service isn't responding quickly enough, then it'll be flagged and addressed. In short, Aaron, there is an awful lot of work going on. We have systems in place that are working 99% of the time, and we are focused on addressing those incidents when the system doesn't work as it should. You quite rightly expect us to do that. What I can say is that the customer services team and our IT team are real strengths of this organisation, and we are lucky to have such dedicated officers doing such a great job. And I'm very happy to pick this up offline with you, as I know you have already been doing with the IT team, to continue the conversation with you.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Mayor. And Leader, you have kindly mentioned that our team is, there is no undermining the officers' efforts here. However, I would like to bring to your attention that these systems are available off the shelf and many councils have implemented it. I'm just asking, leader, why do we need to reinvent the wheel? Why can't we take something available in other councils, especially the Hampshire or somewhere else, and just make it use and bring it to, roll it out to the council? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Aaron. We ain't going to resolve this across the floor of the council chamber this evening on such a technical matter. I'm very happy for you and me to sit down, whoever, and have a conversation with the officers so that you're fully up to date with what is going on, because I know a huge amount of work is going on behind the scenes to achieve the very things that you're talking about. This organisation takes it seriously. It's not that we don't as a council. Let us talk about it with you to brief you on what is going on.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
Third time it's me again, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm very pleased to see some of these Facebook social media advertisements by the Basingstoke Council. I'm very pleased for the residents of the Brighton Hill, Hatchwater and other 4 play areas where we are renovating. However, it is disappointing that I have to bring this topic 3rd time in the council. And my question is in the order papers already, Councillor James. So can you please update us what is going on?
Thank you, Councillor. As you know, we had hoped to get this work on Sinclair Drive play area underway as quickly as possible, but we have had difficulty in finding a company with a specialist capability to undertake this work. This is a complex project, as underground soakaways are 8 metres down and causing the issue, and that this needs to be sorted before we can rebuild the play area. We believe that we now have identified a company that can do this work. You will appreciate how difficult this has been, and you have been kept informed throughout. Be reassured that we will continue to keep you and your ward fellow councillors updated, as we have throughout. And as you know, the residents in the area have been have also had a hand-delivered letter, and you received a copy of that. You only mentioned 2 play areas, but I'm proud to say that play areas at Hatchwarren Park, at Matthias Walk in Brighton Hill Ward, Moorhands Avenue in Hatchwarren and Beggarwood Ward, and Oakfields Close in Evangar Ward will be replaced with exciting new equipment ready for children and their families to use in the warmer weather. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor James. And thank you. Yes, I do join it, okay? All right. And that plan was conservatives in the past, Mr. Mayor. Anyway, so does it mean, Councillor James, because of the specialist means, 130,000 plus whatever we allocated for this capital renovation means we are going to exceed the budget? And are we willing to fill that budget gap if required?
I can't answer that at this time, but we're hoping that the budget that we have available will meet that need. But I can't give you that reassurance at this stage. But that's what we've put in the budget, and if we are committed, absolutely committed, to bringing this play area back in use. But as I say, this is a really complex issue and is requiring very specialist work. But the community are aware of it, and we are very supportive, and we've had no comeback from them. But we will keep them informed as well as other ward members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Compton Burnett.
Thank you. The question is per the order paper.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please, we give grants to owner-occupiers or tenants to help with the cost of adapting their homes to meet the needs of someone with a disability. Just to be clear, approximately 1% of these adaptations undertaken involve those people needing to be discharged from hospital. If adaptations are needed, these will come to us through the County Council's occupational therapist after an assessment. Government give money to the county passport that money to us, and health go directly to county for the assessments. The money for this programme comes from the government. Despite the increase in building costs and materials, the amount we get has been frozen for 4 years. But I can reassure you that the budget for the next year has not been reduced, neither has it been increased. The original capital budget set by the government for 2023-24 and 2024-25 was £1.5 million. Last financial year, extra money spent was as a result of a backlog at County Council caused by COVID. During that backlog, we were unable to actually spend the money. We put aside the money and it was ring-fenced, and it enabled us to meet the surge in assessments coming forward from the County Council. We do not have a waiting list like many other councils. The increase in staff in the team has enabled us to meet the additional demands of that surge. Residents rate the work of this team very highly, and you may have all seen that in in our magazine, and it's a really highly rated service.
7
and I'd like
seconds to finish.
publicly thank them for the great service they do and deliver.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Supplementary.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. I totally agree. It's excellent service that they provide. The main question is, can we make sure that going forward we continue to work with Hampshire County Council and the hospital to get best value for the money that we've got? And can we extend this partnership working to the other areas in which we can support them with health and care? Particularly thinking about the Integrated Care Board's stated aim that they want to set up integrated neighbourhood teams throughout North Hampshire. And that's something where they'll need us to be partners because of the insight we've got in our local communities. So that's really, can we please work in partnership with them to do the very best we can to support them?
We do work in partnership with them. It's essential. We can't do this without working in partnership. They receive the money from government. We then they passport that to us. The occupational therapists do the work. They're at county. Anybody that wants an assessment applies to county for that. That work is then passed on to us. So it is partnership, and it's partnership at its best, really. And I highly recommend our service. I think it's fabulous. And what is also exceptional is that we don't have a waiting list like other councils.
Councillor James. Item 15. Any questions for the chairs or cabinet or committee members? Otherwise, I move this on block.
And I second that.
All in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. I think that's the end of the agenda. Yep. And see you at mayor making.